What is going on, fishy friends? Rich here, Rich's Fishes, and I want to give a big welcome and a big thank you to all my new subscribers. A big welcome back to all my old subscribers, but I've recently seen quite a big surge, a big bump in new subscriptions. And I want to thank each and every one of you for stopping by and seeing what I'm doing and watching me kind of talk to myself in my fish room. I'm not 100% sure what caused this sudden spike in subscriptions. I'm not going to question a good thing, so welcome aboard. I can only assume it's because everybody took advantage of that great sale I ran. Hit that subscribe button for free last week, I think even 2 weeks ago. And since it's worked so well, I'm going to continue it for one more week, and I'm going to sweeten the pot to buy one, get one. Hit that subscribe button now and tell one of your friends they can subscribe for free also. Isn't that awesome? Anyway. I've had quite a long day. I am still renovating my kitchen. Anybody who's been following along for quite some time might know this is the second kitchen remodel I've done in the past year or so. Just got out of the shower after hanging drywall all day, and I am beat, and I am sore, and I have not been down here doing my maintenance tonight the way I planned on doing it. Sitting in front of the 29-gallon tank, filled with some German blue rams. There's 8 fish in the tank right now, and I got at least 2 different pairs that are spawning on and off for me every week or so. There's no eggs in the tank right now, and I've not yet had any successful rearing of any fry. But because I've had so many new subscribers recently, besides thanking everyone, I want to give a little background about myself and sort of fill everybody in on what they might have missed since I've started my YouTube channel. My name's Rich, and I keep a lot of fish. That pretty much sums it up. I got a fish room here in my basement. Right now I got 18, maybe 19 tanks that are filled and stocked. Got quite a few tanks that aren't yet filled that I have big plans for the future. As you might have seen, anyone who has watched in the past, I crammed a whole lot of stuff into a little room down here, and every once in a while I realized I could have done a little bit better. I could have fit a little more here and there. I ended up taking down a tiny little wall. I ended up removing a little closet and realizing I could fit more tanks over here where I never thought there could be, and then a few more over here where I didn't think there should be. And I've done a few different renovations in the fish room here, a couple of different redesigns, so to say. I think I'm technically on version 2.0, and I'm working on version 3.0 in my head. I got big plans to update, move a couple of things, expand a little bit, grow a little bit, not only in the sense that I want to have some more fish tanks and more fish. I'd love to take on some more discus, potentially maybe start importing from someone. I'm looking at one of my discus tanks over in the corner right now. Let's see if I can... And what I'm planning, besides growing the fish room, is to keep growing this YouTube channel. And all you new subscribers are a big stepping stone for that. They're a big first step for me as far as really growing this thing and really using it for all it's worth. And getting some information out there and showing people what I'm doing. If you guys enjoy watching it, I'm going to keep doing it, and I'll keep filming it as I do it. So part of my plans for the upgrade in the fish room include expanding my central air system that run all my air-driven filters. I'm looking up because that's where some of the plumbing is for that. I got a PVC loop that runs around the ceiling down here in my basement, and that provides air to each and every one of the tanks, where for the most part I run air-driven sponge filters, as you can see over here in this tank. I do run a couple of hang-on back filters. I also run a couple of canister filters. I keep a tank at my office, which I run a sump system on. For the most part, I like South American cichlids. It's something I never realized until somewhat recently, that I tend to gravitate towards that. I really enjoy discus. I really enjoy German blue rams. I really enjoy various Epistogramma species. I'm pointing at a tank up there right now with them. I have another tank around the corner with them over there as well. And I just tend to love South American cichlids. They're fascinating to me. Their colors are so vibrant and unique as far as typical freshwater fish go. Their parental skills are very, very unique. Most cichlids, in fact I think all cichlids, have some sort of inborn, not need necessarily, but they parent. They actually raise their young, as opposed to other fish like guppies, for example, who don't necessarily care for their young once they're born. Various fish will obviously eat the newborns, the fry and the young fish. That happens across the board. But for the most part, cichlids have a parenting skill. They tend to the eggs, they care for the eggs, and then they care for the newborn fry as well. Discus are very unique in the sense that the fry physically eat off the parents. They eat off the side of the fish. They consume the slime coat produced by the parent's fish, and that's really an interesting thing to watch. I've not had very much luck breeding discus, although I've tried, and I'm going to keep trying. I have a couple of breeding pairs, so I have one breeding pair right now. I'm going to keep trying. Hopefully I get it right. Like I said, I might want to think about importing discus perhaps. I'm looking into getting the licensing and the permits and stuff like that. What else was I saying as far as the general plans for how I'm going to expand the fish room? Let me grab the camera and walk around and see what's what. So we won't do a complete fish room tour, but what I will show everyone is what I'm working with. I got a very small footprint here. You can see I'm more in like a hallway. This is one side of my basement. It makes a big L around the perimeter of the basement, and there's some other rooms on the other side of the wall that I can't really use for the fish room. So I have as many tanks as I could possibly fit. I'm planning on potentially redesigning this rack over here and going with something different to fit a little bit more. This 29-gallon tank will probably end up being part of a different rack that'll incorporate this 29-gallon tank and this 20-gallon tank. And I'll probably extend the rack over where right now there is two empty Mr. Aqua 12-gallon long tanks. There's one up top holding some driftwood. There's one down in the middle holding some driftwood. That's an 8-gallon cube, a 12-gallon cube that's empty. That's a 38-gallon tank that currently houses two of my discus. These are two discus that I grew out from very, very, very tiny juvenile fish. That's a third fish that was part of that same group that I've been treating for some sort of health issue that I can't yet diagnose. So over here, the 38-gallon tank that houses those discus that I just showed you used to be sitting over here, where there's currently an empty 40-gallon breeder tank. I've got a second empty 40-gallon breeder tank over here in the corner, and that's going to go up top, where there is currently an algae-infested, disgusting mess of a 30-gallon tank that currently houses one angelfish. That one angel was part of a larger group that I grew out from very small fry. Roughly these fish were maybe a quarter size. The remainder of that group are over here in this tank. If we can see past the glare. I didn't set myself up for filming. I got some curtains and stuff I used to cut down on the glare. But the rest of those angels are here in the 55-gallon planted tank. So this 30-gallon algae-infested tank is going to move, and a 40-gallon breeder is going to go up here, which means I need to modify my rack a little bit. Check out my old video for these DIY fish food storage vinyl gutter systems that I did. So this tank's going to move. Another 40-gallon breeder is going to go up there. Something's going to get redesigned over here where I used to have 2, 4, 5, 10-gallon tanks. Now I have 4 10-gallon tanks and an empty Mr. Aqua 17 or 22. And where was I? I got pulled away for daddy duty for a second. I got 2 adorable little girls. My youngest just had her first birthday earlier today. My eldest is 6, and she loves to come down here and hang out in the fish room and help out herself down here. Matter of fact, she's got her own 10-gallon glowfish tank over here. That's my little girl's choice. Very colorful glowfish. So, what was I saying? The redesign of the fish room, right? I think that's where I was at. 40-gallon up here, algae-infested 30-gallon will get moved. I'm not sure where to. I might end up having to sell this tank, just because I might not have enough room for it. So, what was I saying? 2, 4, 5 10-gallons now have 4 10-gallons in the empty Mr. Aqua tank. The 5th 10-gallon has been moved over to that rack over there. And then what I'm going to do is move both of these 55-gallon tanks, move the planted 72 bow front, move the 20 long, move the 20 high quarantine hospital tank, rebuild a rack system that's going to extend a little further than the 55-gallon does now. So that'll scooch the 55-gallon over to the right, that'll scooch the 72-gallon and what's on top of it right now, and allow me enough room for 2 more tanks over here, which I believe I can fit 2 75. So I'm going to do a 75 and a 75. I'll probably do a 55 on top of the 72, and I'm going to redesign the rack so I can fit in these other tanks somewhere, and hopefully still have some room to nestle in the CO2 system that I use for my planted tanks. I use a single stage regulator. I think that's a GLA regulator that I bought used. That's one thing I would like to say. Someone had recently asked how expensive this hobby is. This hobby can be very expensive, but used equipment is fantastic. There's absolutely nothing wrong with used equipment. I'd say 99% of the things I own in this fish room are secondhand, including the tanks, the filters. I wouldn't say the fish. I do buy fish from other hobbyists, but I don't know if you'd consider that used or not. That's a moral conversation for another time, I suppose. But used equipment, Craigslist, Facebook, any forum you can think of, any of these new apps, Let Go and all that kind of stuff, anywhere you can find used equipment, take advantage of it. And the $1 per gallon sale at PetSmart, I always forget which one runs it. The $1 per gallon sale is fantastic. That's the only reason I own a brand new 40-gallon breeder. It's the only reason I own 2 brand new 40-gallon breeders. And they're the only 2 tanks I could think of that I've purchased new from a store in quite a long time. Deals are out there. Deals can be had. You just got to be a little bit patient. But I couldn't afford to run as many tanks as I do in this room if I didn't learn how to search for a good deal, scour the internet for stuff, learn how to bargain a little bit here and there. And you got to know what things are worth. It's difficult to teach that to someone quickly. But again, Petco runs sales where you can buy brand new tanks for $1 a gallon, from a 10-gallon tank all the way up to a 75-gallon tank. So that's a good benchmark for what you should be spending on a tank. No more than $1 per gallon used. As a matter of fact, $1 per gallon used is quite expensive, since you could buy $1 per gallon new. That's my little rant on that. So, once I'm done renovating my kitchen, once I get the time to figure out how to do it, that's when the progress is going to start happening down here, and there'll be big things to come in Rich's Fish's Fish Room. The problem is mentally planning it all out. I'm also trying to plan out how to make everything automated once I redesign, in the sense that I'm going to do an automated water change system, where I'll continuously have fresh water dripping into tanks, and either a pump system will remove old water, or the new water will just continually overflow through bulkheads in the new tanks. So, I think that's a good little synopsis of the general plans for what I'm going to be doing in the very near future. Just back to what I was saying a little bit earlier, just a little more about myself. I mean, I've been keeping fish on and off for probably close to 30 years now. My father, I gotta thank my father, credit my father for getting me interested in this hobby as a little boy. He and I used to scour garage sales in the late 80s, early 90s, pick up a 10-gallon tank here and there. I don't think we ran more than maybe 2, maybe 3 at the most at a time. I can remember envisioning to my father this giant wall of shelving just for fish tanks, to fill it with fish tanks, you know, and it was a reality that I wasn't able to grasp until I lived on my own. Like I said, my father got me into it when I was young. We would keep tanks on and off here and there. We didn't really understand the process so well. We didn't understand the science behind it. We didn't understand the nitrogen cycle. So we'd end up keeping a tank for a couple of months and end up losing all the fish, and maybe losing interest for a little while and starting it back up again a month or 2 later and keep it for a year. You know, and then as I got older, the family moved. We didn't keep any tanks for a little while. Well, that's not true. I don't think we started keeping tanks until we moved into that second house. Anyway, we stopped keeping them for a while, and then I got back into the hobby in college. It was probably 2000 or so when I bought, matter of fact, it was this 29-gallon tank right here. I bought a combo deal, the tank, stand, the cheesy plastic hood, and the light that's in it, 17 or so years ago now. I set that up in the house that I was renting with a bunch of college roommates. I kept plants in that tank for the very first time. I kept a bright pink reddish gravel. I'm colorblind, but I thought it was red. I was later informed it's actually a little pinkish and a little girlish. That was the first tank I attempted plants in. I bought an assorted pack of bulbs from one of the big box pet stores, dropped them in the tank, and that thing grew some beautiful lush plants. I had some great big angelfish in there. Again, I didn't quite understand the science behind the hobby yet. I didn't really know as much as I know now, that's for sure. But somehow I muddled along, and I did pretty well. You know, I enjoyed it. Then I had to move out of that house. College ended. I ended up moving back in with my parents for a while. There was just no room to have a tank. I kept this 29-gallon tank sat empty in my parents' house for years and years and years and years and years. Then, fast forward a couple of years later to when I'm living in an apartment with my wife, an apartment in the sense that we rented the upstairs of the house, and we had just done a couple of little things in the kitchen. We decided we could move the kitchen table to a different wall, and that opened up a little bit of space, and my wife, thankfully, looked at me and said, hey, there's probably just about enough room for you to grab that fish tank out of your parents' house and set it up over here. So I did. And then within 6 months, I was buying more tanks on Craigslist, and the bug had bit me. Multiple tank syndrome hit hard. I set up this 29-gallon tank in the kitchen in that house, and with some careful finagling and some careful measuring, I fit a 72 Beaufront tank next to it, a 20-gallon high tank next to that, and soon thereafter, we ended up moving out of that apartment and buying this house, and slowly but surely, I ended up creating this fish room. And that's when I developed a love for discus and other South American cichlids, and things like German blue rams. I'll never forget how I got introduced to a German blue ram. I'd seen them on the internet once or twice. I didn't really know much about them. And again, I was in one of the big box pet stores just because I happened to be there. I'm not a huge fan of the big box pet stores. I'd much rather frequent the local fish stores, the small mom and pop kind of shops. And honestly, past that, I'd much rather deal with breeders directly when it's buying fish and other hobbyists. I've had my best luck buying plants, fish, almost any livestock from other hobbyists. Not even necessarily people all too local for me. I buy fish and have them shipped quite a distance over a number of days, which I know a lot of people are against and don't have good luck with. I've had fantastic luck with it, and I'm going to keep doing it. I think it's great as long as the person you're buying from is knowledgeable enough to know how to bag fish up and get them ready to ship, then everything should work just fine. I'm going to have to pause here for one more second. My oldest daughter is having quite a lot of trouble falling asleep tonight. I think she might be fighting a cold or something, and she keeps coming down looking for attention, it seems. Now I completely lost my train of thought and forgot what the heck I was talking about. Fish room, keeping fish. The history of me keeping fish. The history of Rich's Fishes. That has a certain ring to it. It's not something I ever thought I'd be saying before. Well, anyway, guys, I guess this is as good a spot as any to end the video. Again, I want to thank all my new subscribers, thank all my old subscribers. Stick around. If you like what you see, give me a thumbs up, tell all your friends, and let's see this channel grow. Alright, guys, later.